Hey there, I'm Joshua from GrimmGitz. Those of you who have followed our journey so far may have realized that we haven't released any devlogs recently. I'm here to let you know that we're still working on projects, but lately it hasn't been easy. Our greatest roadblock has been time and workload. With only myself working completely full-time on these projects, it's hard to find time between work, family, and life in general to actually make these devlogs. More importantly, it's extremely difficult to financially support myself, so we're actually working on a negative budget. This is requiring some of us to work full-time in other jobs to make this work. Now, I'm not here to go too deep into our financial issues, but it has to be mentioned because it's a driving factor of our creative decisions recently. We want to work on some big games, but it'll take a really long time to make these games with our current team size. Now, we could go to Kickstarter, but we think it's more important to establish ourselves and build an audience who knows what we're about before going to crowdfunding. With that said, we want to be transparent with our goals to you, so you can decide whether you want to support our journey. We want to make video games, yes, but more so, we want to build universes that players will recognize as GrimmGitzes. We also want to make tabletop strategy games and miniature models that tie to our games to allow players to have an entirely new creative outlet to explore. We have two universes that have been worked on for about 20 years now. One is a sci-fi setting and the other one is a fantasy setting. And we really want to develop games that can be placed into either of these settings. What is GrimmGitz currently working on? With our desire to build universes in mind, we want to formally introduce you to our latest project, Realms at War. This is Realms at War, our contribution to the turn-based strategy gaming sphere set in our universe. What you're seeing here is an early playable demo. There's a lot missing that we want to add in, but we are excited to show you where we're at right now. And you can play this over on Steam, link in the description below. This log is the first time we're publicly revealing how the game is being created, what currently exists, and a few things we intend on adding. Note that this game is fully intended to sit in the same world as Airship, using the same world assets and looks, all designed around being 3D printable, who we are, and our scope. Currently, there are only two of us working as full-time as we can on this project. However, we have a few artists coming and going to help us with things like concepting and world building too. I handle art, the overall game design, story writing, and management of anyone who might come and go into the project, as well as marketing and PR, and everything except for programming, pretty much.
Meanwhile, I handle the programming, blueprints in Unreal Engine, and a few technical art jobs. Hey, I'm Adam. Because the team is so small, our decisions in the game are shaped by practical limits, time available, skill levels, and how complex the systems can be.
What the game is trying to achieve. At the core, Realms at War is our attempt to bridge the gap between chess and a tabletop wargame. That's why our game looks like it has a subtle chess grid, but all of our units also follow the core rules of chess movement. However, instead of pieces being locked to types of movement, we have everything move more like a king and queen in a chess game. With all this in mind, we can look at the units currently in game and explain their purposes. The peasants, aka the pawns. These guys, whether they know it or not, are your frontline fodder. They are the guys who can body block sight lines, or generally be a nuisance for the enemy when dealing with greater targets. However, there are ways of increasing the peasants' abilities. The cultists of Ash, aka the bishops. These are our world's vision of a bishop. Looking at chess, it really doesn't make too much sense why a bishop would be in the front lines of battle, willing to kill the enemy as much as they do in-game. So we re-envisioned him to be more of a support role. Thus, he has the ability to buff peasant units with a +1 health that regens each turn. So the peasants and the cultist are a frontline buddy duo. The men at arms. These guys aren't really tied to chess, but they introduce mechanics such as ranged attacks overall. They're your general middle-class soldiers. I kind of like to picture them as the Rook. From here on is actually our packaged units, as in they fight together or not at all. the knight on foot, aka the queen. These guys have had a lot of changes over the years to balance. However, as they stand on paper, they are elite heavies who can take hits as well as give them. They, however, come at a higher cost compared to something like peasants. The knights mounted, aka the knight/horsey. This one was a real challenge to refine. However, we believe they are at their best at the moment. Fast-moving cavalry, able to reposition and move where needed in a pinch. They also keep the basic principle of a chess knight, being the L movement. But instead of jumping over units, they run them down and deal damage to any they pass through. Lastly, the captain, aka the king. Everyone knows the king is one of the most useless pieces in chess, let's be honest. He moves slow, is vulnerable to everything, and is the game's end state. So we decided that the captain/king needs to be the main character instead, with leading and empowering his army as his main objective. This means he hits like a brick and buffs his melee units by +1 damage, just by being next to them. Now when I said packaged units, I meant the captain, the knights mounted, and the knights on foot. The captain is the player. We want you to be able to customize him and his abilities, and his knights are loyal to him alone. Where am I going with this? Well, that takes us to our next point, game expansion. What does game expansion mean exactly? We want to have a few hero units, like the captain, for each faction in Realms at War. Each with different abilities, playstyles, and unique units. This means we're designing their abilities, units, and looks early on to make sure we have a fun lineup for the future. But this really is where you come in, and I mean you. If you've watched this far and like the premise of the game, head over to Steam and wishlist it now. Link in the description. Now when I say head over and wishlist it now, it really is important for Steam to know that people are interested in the game. I know a lot of people say algorithm this, algorithm that, but it really is a factor. So if you are interested in it, please do that. So the original vision of Realms at War. I've been reading a script this entire time, and this is where I get to go a little freeform. Chess is a game that I have played since I was a little baby boy. But there's also been another game that I have loved just as much. Warhammer. Well, Warhammer, right behind me. I have played that since I was 7, and by played I mean I have collected Warhammer since I was 7 because I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't have anyone around me to teach me how to play, but I knew how to play chess because my dad taught me and he wrecked me every single game. So my idea is I would have loved to have had a game that was like chess in its basic core principles, but also kind of like a Warhammer-y kind of tabletop game where I could easily just pretty much play with the chess pieces and just use a dice and be able to play a completely different game. So that's where this game came from. The idea that, hey, let's have a game that bridges between chess and actual tabletop wargaming, where dice are actually used, but it's also just on a grid where pieces move like chess pieces. That's the fundamental concept of where it came from. It's developed since then, I must admit, but I still want to keep it as simple as possible. So I don't want to have units that are like 400 HP and all that kind of stuff, and have superhero units that explode things off the board. I want everything to sort of be quite easy to kill and be able to get a game over and done with within around the 10-minute mark. That's kind of the objective that I've been going for from day one. So I ended up putting chess games together and playing them with friends, and it was fun, but like, you know, once you know how to play chess, you just end up doing the same things, especially if you're playing with someone who doesn't really know how to play chess. You end up doing the same maneuvers, and you either beat them or the game gets dragged out until, you know, one of you gives up, or it just turns into not fun. In my opinion, not fun. Chess is great, don't get me wrong, chess is great, but when you have a stalemate, it's not fun. So I like the idea of having units be more random. So maybe you're going to kill this guy, maybe you're not. That idea in chess is just unfathomable, because a pawn can take out, you know, well, not a king, but a queen in one go. Whereas there's no armor being taken into account, there's no additional effects being taken into account like you would in a tabletop game. So that's where we are, right? So a pawn or a peasant cannot take out a higher grade unit just in one hit, at least not without assistance or other peasants. And the effect of moving all of your army at once is another big factor. In chess, one person moves one piece, and the next person moves the next piece, and then you can move the same piece again. But in our game, it's all or nothing. You're moving your whole army in one turn, and then the next player moves their whole army. And at first this seems a little daunting, and it really would be if there was a lot of pieces, but we have limited the amount of units that you can play in a game, which makes it much more playable and easier to sort of digest. So you're only really focusing on 4 at a time, 4 core units that you're bringing in, and that's it. It's really simple, I hope. Back to the script. None of our plans can happen without you. We're relying on building an audience right here. So here is our open statement of clarity. Now, if this game doesn't do very well with a player base, we will have to switch over development to the friend slop genre, just to be able to build up enough funds, hopefully, to be able to pay for these kind of things to be made. It's a sad reality, but that's where we're at. Now, it's not a bad thing to focus on this genre, but we would prefer to focus on something a little bit more strategic, a little bit more storytelling and world exploring. So when we're working on friend slop stuff, we're gonna probably be pulling an audience that plays for maybe 1 or 2 times, and then that's it. But we really would love to get people in that like those long-form games, those strategy things where you're using your brain. No offense to everyone who likes friend slop, but strategy is in its own realm, and we love the audience that lives there. We just hope that we can reach you guys. But again, we'll see how things come together. If you like our goal, please subscribe and follow us over on Steam. We'd love to hear from you and have you join our community. Until the next one, we'll see you then. As always, stay awesome. Is that good enough? Is that a good enough? Hopefully I got it. Now, I'm all for using microphones appropriately and connecting them to my lapel. Or is that what that's called? The corner of my shirt. But I have a big old beard, and unlike majority of the streamers out there and YouTubers who hold these things on weird things, they don't have beards, and beards, even with this little thing, make a lot of noise. So I do apologize for the cringe in using this sword, but I have other things, but I thought it would be funny. So hopefully you did too. See ya.
That's funny.